Hello and welcome to Stay for Dinner, a podcast of cooking, curiosity, and conversation. If you love cooking, hate cooking, have no idea how you even feel about cooking because you've never tried it before, congratulations, you are in the right place. I am going to have the shortest intro and cooking segment of all time, possibly, on this episode. I am doing the next and possibly last installment of our ramen project on the show, and this time I am making something very simple but very important, which is the tare, or I feel weird saying it because I'm not a native Japanese speaker, but I think that's how it's pronounced. It's T-A-R-E. And so if I'm completely butchering it, my apologies. But I am making Shio Tare, and it is from, as always, the Let's Make Ramen cookbook. I swear I'm not being paid by them. It's just, this is an exciting book that I've wanted to dive into in a big way for a long time, and I just like it. And sometimes I just like telling people about things that I like. I'm enthusiastic about this, and so I'm telling you about it. And isn't that what a lot of podcasting is? So I am making this is the flavor additive that goes into your broth to really sort of put it over the top in terms of flavor, and this one is called Shio Tare, I think because it's salt. Shio, as far as I know, is salt. And with the tonkatsu broth that I made, you can basically, they say in the book, do any kind of tare that you want. There's one that's more soy sauce based. I'm doing this one, A, because it's simple, and B, because I just want to make sure that tonkatsu flavor that I put so much time into developing is present and shines through, and I think it will. And let's do this. Quick check of my ingredients: half an ounce of sea salt, 2 ounces of mirin or a quarter cup, half an ounce or 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, and 2 ounces of water or a quarter cup of water. And they recommend doing the salt by weight. Unfortunately, our kitchen scale is on the fritz because some water got into it, so we're waiting for it to dry. And while that happens, I looked up online how much half an ounce of sea salt is, and it's about 1/16 of a cup. So half of a quarter cup of sea salt is what I'm going with. And literally all I'm going to do in front of your very ears is combine all that stuff I just mentioned in a small pot on the stove and then drink it. No, just stir it over medium heat until all the salt dissolves, and then it'll be ready, and I can refrigerate it until I'm going to use it. And by the way, my sea salt conversion should not be taken for yours. I specifically looked up the specific type of sea salt that I had. The point that they're making in the book is that you're supposed to weigh them because every single type of sea salt is going to have a different weight. So if you don't have a scale, you got to do some Googling, sounds like. So I just added the quarter cup of mirin, and now I'm adding the quarter cup of water. Now I'm going to turn it on medium heat. And on the day, I will add because I'm using tonkatsu broth, the book recommends using about 2 tablespoons per serving, basically 12 ounces of stock per serving of ramen. It's getting warm, so we're going to stir to dissolve the salt. Ooh, it smells super strong, acidic, which I love. It's going to cut through the fattiness of the broth really well. And I'm assuming it's really salty. I'm going to take a little taste, actually. Ooh, yeah. Super salty. I mean, of course, but I don't hate it. Yum. Great. All right. I'm going to add that to my broth before serving, but not right now. Right now, here's an interview with Carey O'Donnell. Carey was a writer for the TV adaptation of Heathers. He is the co-host of Sexy Unique Podcast, a hilarious podcast all about maybe the best show on TV, Vanderpump Rules. We didn't end up talking about Vanderpump Rules at all, which I, as a Vanderpump super fan, I surprised myself, honestly. We were too busy talking about like suburbia and the weird different people that you find there and high school job memories and everything under the sun. I really enjoyed talking to Carey. He is absolutely one of the funniest people out there, and I had a blast. I think you will too. Enjoy. Well, Carey O'Donnell, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we cannot share an actual meal in actual space. So all I can do is hope that the last thing you ate was delicious and satisfying.
It was. It was very much. Should I say it now or?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Greenblatt's last night.
Is that the deli?
That's the deli by the Laugh Factory.
Oh wow!
On
How was it?
Sunset.
I've never had it.
Oh my God, it's so good. So I've been having it a lot this week. I think just because it's getting colder and darker in LA, I've just been craving soup and comfort. So I've had Greenblatt's like twice in the last week. I live close by, so it's not that far, and they are on Postmates, but it's great. It's closer to me than Cantor's, which is also one of my favorites on Fairfax. But yeah, I had matzo ball, chicken vegetable soup, and a Reuben sandwich, half of a Reuben sandwich, and green beans. So I'm extremely exciting, and I'm 69 years old.
And you used to write for the Carol Burnett Show.
I did. Yes. I was in the writer's room for Carol for about 3 years. And, this is just my way of coming down from that. So
that's wow. This has been a long come down.
Right. It's been a couple decades, but I'm finally reaching that sweet spot with Greenblatt's.
And you know what? Take all the time you need, honestly.
Thank you. I'm that makes me happy to know that I have support from another comedic writer.
I'm almost ashamed to admit that I am like completely under delied as far as LA is concerned. I have always I think I've always meant to go, go to Cantor's, and then it was wait, all the Odd Future kids have now taken over Fairfax, and I'll probably get a checkered van thrown at my head if I go.
Yeah, there's shoe stores called Golf there, and I always feel really judged when I'm there because I'm not cool, and there's 17-year-olds who are just way more mature and self-aware than I am somehow, wearing checkered Vans and Tyler the Creator stuff, and I'm just I am not in this space. But
what a bizarre, that is such a weird, cool, interesting thing about how I don't know, the internet, people are the internet or Twitter is not the world or whatever, but then
right.
you look at Fairfax, which is just this strip of in Hollywood where it's a neighborhood with a lot of Orthodox Jewish people historically. Yeah. And then just suddenly I moved to LA in 2010.
Okay.
And then a year or two later, just seeing it suddenly, cause the Odd Future kids would hang out there, and then they opened a store there, and then you turned around, and still to this day, I mean, this is 8-9 years later, but now it is, all just weird stores where you can't tell, is this place cool, or is this the place that the kids that don't know but want to spend $300 on a sneaker go there, and then everybody else laughs at them.
It's is this a shoe store or a salad place, like a make your own salad place? That's always my question when I because they all just have that look. Is this
I maintain is a false choice?
What's that?
I maintain that's a false choice.
Yeah.
Why should I have to choose?
I know, it should be both.
Just give me a chopped salad in an overpriced. I don't know enough about sneakers to have the specifics to finish this joke.
And there's always, on Melrose, and there's always on any given Saturday or Sunday, there's just a line of youths waiting to go into some store and to get some shoe deal. And I feel I should just be joining the lines sometimes because it just looks important.
Is that your line impulse? Do you have that thing where you look at any line and you go what is that, and why am I not in it? What don't I know?
Sometimes I feel sometimes I have an aversion to that sometimes, but sometimes I'm just that looks fun. I want to go stand in a line for 2 hours and then not know what I'm in line for. And then
It,
it always is at the end of every line is a shoe store.
and then, yeah, it would be great to be the person who waits in that line to get into the shoe store where everybody else is going to spend at least $400 when they get to the front of that line. And you're just
Yeah.
the person that's like, I'm just looking, what is this?
Yeah. What is going on? Okay.
Waiting in line to browse.
Yeah. But I think, it's a cool kind of contrast though to have like an old timey deli like Cantor's next to this sort of happening epicenter now. Like I like seeing both of them together because it is kind of interesting. And Cantor's is just like I moved here 3 years ago from New York, so I was kind of craving like deli diner kind of places. And it does, and I'm from New Jersey, so it's like the capital of diners. It does hit that sweet spot for me.
Now, because like I did not grow up with that whatsoever. I basically I'm from Arizona, and we would
Okay.
like go to IHOP after the play.
Oh
the
yeah,
play.
yeah.
Um,
The cast and
you-
crew diner moment at like midnight.
precisely where it was
Yeah.
just like, it takes you like you're there for 2 hours total, and 45 minutes of it is hanging out, and an hour and 15 minutes of it is like calculating the bill and
Yeah.
like, the tip, and like people being like, wait, I have a 20 because that's my allowance, but then
Yeah.
I need change back because I only had a soda.
And just like theater kids that are just on, and like these older waiters and waitresses are just like, okay.
And that is now, I think, why I have such an aversion to like, it's not that I am like wealthy. It's just that anytime I'm out to eat, it's just like, what's the shortest distance between us getting the bill and being done with this? Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care. And that is a moment to completely take advantage of me. I will spend up to $30 more than I owe on the bill just to be like, can this just be over? Because it's so mortifying to me. And whenever I've had like, when you'll go out to eat now, especially with like Venmo or just somebody's like, put it on a card or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, great, this is totally fine. And now when like the one person is like, yes, but I'll be paying in cash. And then you're just like, wait, now we all have to pay in cash or we have to do whatever. And it just takes me right back there.
Oh yeah, it's like war. It's like a call to arms. Like you feel the violence I feel during moments of that period between where I'm just like, take everything. I don't care. I just have to get out of here. Like it's so stressful to me. I don't like, it makes me uncomfortable to hear people talk about money. And I'm just like, oh my God, and math is scary to me. So I'm just, I throw my card somewhere and I'm like, take it, please.
Yeah, that's why we will not do well in like an apocalypse situation. Is because there's two types of people. There are people who will be like, sit there and be like, no, I'm owed $1.60 more than what you gave me. And then there's people who will just be like,
take it.
Just here's my car keys.
Yeah, I'm in awe of those people who will like be like, no, I'm gonna figure this out. I am owed something, or like we are all owed, or like we don't have to pay as much as it's saying, and we will sit here and figure it out. And I'm just like the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, like whenever you get one of those like little yellow cards in the mail that's like, hey, there's a class action lawsuit that because you were an Audible subscriber like 4 years ago, you now technically are entitled to like 3 free Audible credits because they actually were like upcharging the audiobooks or whatever, where you just want to be like, who was the Audible user that like figured this out and then was like, I'm going to engage like lawyers, and years go by, and then
it's like this Robin Hood type who's just like, I'm going to give the people back what they're due. The Audible community will know.
A combination of Robin Hood and just like a mean old man at the post office that's like, I have all day.
Yeah, I love it.
But so what? So put Jersey diner culture in context for me. Like, what did it mean for you, like growing up? Or is it something you went all the time with your family, or like friends, or all of the above?
Yeah, I'm from outside Philly and South Jersey, so it's just like there's just kind of older diners everywhere, and it was a place you'd go to after a school dance or the play, or just like my friends and I would just go. I mean, I wasn't that popular, so my friends and I, like a cool thing to do would be to go to a diner on like a Saturday night. You know what I mean? because like we weren't getting invited to the cool parties, so we were just like, let's go to the diner, you know. And we would go to this place, Crystal Lake Diner, which is a legendary spot that actually burned down a few years ago, unfortunately. But I think they rebuilt. I know, but I think it was there in like the '60s, and it was just kind of the spot, you know, that like all these like really cool kids, people that I thought were really cool who like listened to like Neutral Milk Hotel would go there, and like in high school, you know, and like be really into like the Unicorns. They would go there. Like the hipster people would go there. And then like me and my friends would go there after like driving around aimlessly and going to Wawa, which is another amazing New Jersey spot. Like,
where you can get a sandwich made not by a robot, but like you have to like interact with the screen to make a sandwich.
It's perfect. So, but yes. The diner was just like kind of a haven for me.
So that was just like the thing where you just go, which is hard to imagine now, but just going like, that's the evening's entire entertainment.
Yeah. Like we would, I mean, I was definitely like, I'm sober now, but I drank a lot in high school. I ended up towards, you know, the latter part of high school, but it was definitely a spot to go. Like if you didn't want to get in trouble, you would go to the diner and hang out and like be silly and throw ice at each other.
What was your go-to order? Was it just like we're all splitting a plate of fries?
I was a crock of French onion soup kind of fellow. I would have French onion soup and fries and like 1,000 Sprites, and just have to like go to the bathroom all night because I had to pee so much because I drank like 12 Sprites.
It's really, I feel like it's going to be so hard to describe to like later generations the appeal of Sprite.
I know.
Because on the face of it, like it doesn't really, especially now that everything is so like seltzered and like sparkling waters are so great and there's so many different flavors, but they don't have sugar and they don't have anything. Like the idea that Sprite was sort of this like there's no caffeine in it.
Yeah.
And it has like lemon lime flavor and it's very sugary, but there is something about it where I'm like, most of the time, I still like soda a good deal. Mm-hmm. Most of the time I don't want a Sprite, but when I want a Sprite,
it hits the spot. It's
so good.
It is. And I have to say I have the aftertaste in my mouth right now. Just imagine like Sprite has the weirdest aftertaste, but there is nothing better than a can of Sprite.
Somebody was pointing out recently that it is like I can't remember who was mentioning this, but that it's like a current meme among like, I think like TikTokers or just maybe just like kids on social media in general, that like Sprite is like really spicy. Like, especially the Sprite from McDonald's is like really spicy.
Whoa.
And it was one of those things where I was like, I heard it and I was like, huh? And then I thought about it for a second and I was like, that's so accurate.
It is accurate. Sprite from McDonald's is great. I do, just on the topic of diners though, I feel like diners like aren't a thing anymore. Like I feel like, I mean, I'm 31, so I'm not like, but I'm definitely like I feel like my age group was like maybe one of the last ones to like really be into diner culture. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think like TikTokers are going to the diner.
I don't think so either. I think you're right. I also think it's just like they're not making new ones. You know what I mean? Like who's opening? It was just such a sort of like a thing of almost like, you know, like ethnic groups coming to America, immigrant groups, and kind of going like, okay, this is where we can get in and we can get sort of on the ladder, is opening these places, but we can't necessarily, there's not necessarily a market for like what we like to eat or make. So we're just this is what we're going to do. It's just, it's easy and it's fairly low cost. And
it's
I guess I just don't know that there's a market for that anymore, unfortunately. Exactly. Yeah. Where it's just like super low cost. There's just like one guy working the griddle and then a like over it, you know, waitress. And that's like a train song is about, and that's it. and
Yes.
people can come here and just hang out, and even if they only buy one thing in 4 hours, it still works. I wonder if that has that been replaced by like coffee shops, because they are opening new coffee shops, but I feel like people aren't opening new diners. And I do think that those terms used to be used almost interchangeably.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I feel like there's coffee shops opening even now, like it's surprising during the pandemic, because it's, in WeHo and Hollywood areas, like I just keep seeing new places popping up. But I think you're right. I think they are, Starbucks alternatives are becoming the new kind of diner. But I don't know. It is that there is always like some kind of middle-aged or older waitress who's like just no nonsense and like will not even look at you while she's taking your order and just know everything you have, and you feel like you hear a Bruce Springsteen harmonica playing. I mean, at least in New Jersey. There was this woman at that Crystal Lake diner that I used to go to. There was always this. She must have been in her late 80s. This woman who would sit at the counter. She would come in at like 11 p.m. every time I was there, until I think she passed away because I stopped seeing her. But she would come. She had a full face of makeup on and like a fake fur coat, and would like sit and wait at the diner, at like the counter. She would like drink coffee and just sit there. And I always used to imagine. I mean, she was totally like gay icon status for me. So I always would try to imagine, like, was she waiting for someone? Was it some kind of like ritual she did every night? Or was she a ghost? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, was she even there? So but she felt like those are the kind of people you would see.
Yeah, it feels like somebody that only exists in a play.
Yeah, right?
Where you're just like, there's no way this person actually exists in the real world, where it's sort of like, well, she always used to come here with her husband, or, she's waiting because she's waiting for her like husband to get off of work at the prison or something, you know what? But but the fur coat and the full face of makeup, it's sort of like, is she there? It's like, is there a sex worker angle? Like it just doesn't.
This like kind of lost history but it was just like, and I never needed to know, because it was just, she was enough of just like this fixture there.
Oh, I feel like if you find out the truth, then it's just, you realize it's like, oh, actually she's just waiting to like pick up her car that's getting a tire fixed, and you're not there actually as much as you think you are.
Yeah.
Or she's not there every night.
Yeah, or like her son works there or something. It's like her son works at the grill or something, and she's just like going to say hi to him, and it's really boring.
Yeah, that's the type of that is the sort of thing where you're like, does that person even exist anymore? Because again, that person can't show up. That you're not going to see that person at like Wingstop or whatever the type of places that are opening now. Like that it just doesn't work that way.
Well, especially someone her age, she can't be at a diner right now. So
for sure.
COVID is just ruining everything.
But there is also a culture, I feel like, of my stepmom is from Pittsburgh, which is obviously on the other side of Pennsylvania. But I do feel like there is a weird, just like East Coast thing, especially among older people, of like, my grandma can have a cup of coffee at like 11 p.m. and then just go to sleep. Yeah.
No, it's so weird. Yeah, it's so true. My grandfather was like that too. He was from Boston. He would sit and like drink coffee at like 10 p.m. and listen to the fire transistor radio, and like he was kind of an ambulance chaser, and he would like listen to the fire reports and just drink coffee.
Was he a literal ambulance chaser, or was he just like, he just liked to listen to like?
Oh no, he just liked to hear the chatter. He was. I mean, he was in the Navy, so I think in World War II. So I think he was just like kind of into that local. I love like a local interest.
Yeah, like somebody that's just this like, I'm just up on it, or like people who like my wife's mom said once, she was like, I like reading obituaries, like just for the stories, the stories are interesting, where you're just like, I guess that's true. But like, yeah, I admire that level of just sort of being up on what's happening for no reason other than like, I don't know, that it looks like the junior high team, the baseball team is like doing well.
Yes.
So they got a good crew.
I love like town hall. I love town hall culture. I love ordinance meetings and like, someone who's always has a complaint. I just love that. I think that's kind of a part of me exists in that world. Even though I've pretty much only lived in cities for the last 10 years. A part of me longs for that kind of local gossip stuff.
Yeah, there almost is. I feel like weirdly over the summer, I feel like there's become in LA like a culture of that, but also people realizing like, oh wait, this is like actually super high stakes because it's LA and it's gigantic and like people's lives are at stake. You know what I mean? Like there has been a sort of like.
Yeah, you're so right. The local, like checking in on local, like COVID stats and like being very aware of your like neighborhood and like what's happening. And I also think Citizen has gone up a lot, like people using Citizen, like the app do you know what that is?
I do, yeah. So what is the difference between that and Nextdoor? I'm like not on either of them because I know that as soon as I am, it will become all consuming.
Yeah. I think Citizen's more like crime and Nextdoor is more like just, I think they dabble in crime and like what's being reported but I think it's more like neighborhood singularity. But Citizen will just give you an alert because I live right near La Brea and in Hollywood, and it's kind of an epicenter for like police helicopters, which somehow have doubled in this time. And there's just always a police helicopter shining like a la Terminator 2 in the opening with like the future war and like the searchlights going on. Like it just feels like I'm in that moment. But Citizen will just be like, oh, billowing smoke 1 mile away. And then like I'll go look out the window and I'll see it, So I'm just like, it's been a lot of like gawking at like plumes of smoke on the horizon this year.
In our like little apartment complex, I was like the Nextdoor or Citizen like free rider where we would hear something or there would be like there's a boom or there's like smoke on the horizon or whatever, and I would just sort of be like, anything about that on Nextdoor to like the neighbor thread.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get on there myself because I think but I just want the information that affects me.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one night where my boyfriend and I were just like for 2 hours watching a feed on Citizen. These two girls, I think they were roommates over in West Hollywood. They were just broadcasting I think they were doing a raid on a house. Some guy had a gun and he was like posted up in his house in WeHo, and they were just filming the scene from their balcony. And they were just doing like it felt like a show. Like it was like Mystery Science Theater of like a SWAT raid. And so we were just watching for like 2 hours and we were like, it was just fun. It was like pay-per-view or something. It was so crazy.
That feels like the kind of thing that if it happened on an episode of Law and Order, I would be like, oh, they're just trying to like make this seem contemporary. And this doesn't
it does feel like that. Like when people talk about like technology in any show, you cringe, but then it actually happens.
Yeah, we turned on, this was like, I genuinely can't tell with time anymore when this happened, where I'm just like, if it happened before March, it feels like it happened 20 years ago, but where I think there was like, it was like an episode of The Bachelor ended or something, or we were watching something on DVR and it just like stopped and the local news was on, and we don't really usually watch like local news because we're not 80. But there was like a police chase up in like Sunland, Tahunga or whatever. It was just like super far away. It was just like, oh, it's a police chase. We'll watch this. And like the guy kept, there was like the helicopter overhead and they were shining the light on him. And he kept like just trying to stop and like not be, or maybe it was before the actual police helicopter was there. So it's just the news helicopter that can see him. But you think like maybe he's not being seen himself by the he doesn't know that he's seen already.
Yeah.
And so he would just sort of like pull over and like parallel park and kind of like try to just be like, just a normal car here. And then would realize like, oh shit, I'm made, and would like keep going. And that kept happening. And I just remember thinking like, wouldn't it be crazy if this ended up like near us? And then he like went and got on the 5 and like drove down and then just like got off at our exit. Like,
Oh
and
my
it really
God.
felt like, oh, I'm controlling this with my mind.
That's like that's some simulation
For
stuff.
sure. And I think it ended up being like, it was one where, so this they ended up basically like pulling in, which is the kind of thing you always think about, like, not that I would want to, but could I do this? Like one of those big apartment complex like gates that they have on the parking garage.
Yeah.
And just like a car was pulling in, so this car in the car chase just like pulled in after the person, like under the gate. And so it's just like now just in the parking garage. And you're just going like, okay, now this person is just like in this apartment complex, I guess, and it's gigantic. So you don't know what's going to happen. And now it's just like all of these helicopters are circling this apartment complex because you like can't see anything anymore. And then I think it ended up turning out where it's just like for an hour, you're like, I mean, this person could have gotten out and could be like, in my head, I'm going like, they're on their way here. They're going to like break into, they know that we're watching somehow. And I think it ended up being like half an hour later, the police like went into the parking garage and found the car, and there was a woman asleep in the back, or pretending to be asleep in the back of the car. And I think it ended up that she had been the driver. And then you just saw her being pulled from the car and being like, my mom lives here. My mom lives here. I'm just sleeping in the back of my car.
I love that. Blame it on the mom.
Yes.
No, it's crazy. I think when there were the protests were happening that first day when the police kind of went crazy. We had been there, and then we left because I had an injury on my hand, and I didn't, it was like hurting. So we went back to our place, and an hour later, I took a nap, and I woke up, and I looked out the window, and we have a little deck, and I looked out, and the Grove was just on fire. And we were just watching the Grove burn it was so surreal, and it felt kind of right that the Grove was on. Like, I was like, the Grove has to burn, right? Like it's only right, you know? It was crazy just to watch. There were all these different incidents that day, but just watching it all from our deck, it was just crazy.
Yeah, I'm imagining like a speaker that's just like playing Dean Martin that's slowly sort of like, I don't know, I whatever it is, it's just like start spread, and it's just like slowly devolving.
World, it's just like it was wild.
Yeah, what a fucking I didn't end up getting, I like didn't hear anything more about it, but I will write for like award shows and different live shows sometime, and I got like an email about like, hey, do you maybe want to write for this thing that would be like a year-end like wrap-up show or whatever about like 2020? And I just like, I'm a little bit relieved that I didn't hear anything more about it, because I just wanted to be like, what would that be?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think
you even sum this up, like it's been a saga.
And just imagining like because it would be like through the lens of sort of like, I'm sure it would be like through the lens of like entertainment, and it would just be like Tenet came out in theaters or whatever. Like there was a new, I don't know, like the new Carrie Underwood album or whatever, where you're just like, guys, no, we can't do this for this year. We have to skip this one.
Demi Lovato hosted the People's Choice Award. He was like, okay. The Grove burned down.
From the burning Grove, emerged from the ashes of the Grove. Demi Lovato rose to host the PCAs.
Yeah. But just going back to diners, and so Greenblatt's to circle back, kind of just taps into that. Like I go back into that like space sometimes when I'm eating like hot matzo or chicken soup or something. It just feels very like comforting and reminds me of South Jersey.
Because also nothing travels better. I feel like that's a great delivery or takeout food. Like deli is designed to travel.
Oh,
and to like be at it. I think it's either like, again, it's like an old like writer's room where it's sort of like, and then they ordered out because it went late, or it's like at a funeral or something. You know what I mean? It's food that's designed to
crisis food.
Yes, precisely. Crisis food, and food that is designed to like travel and then just like sit on a table for like 4 hours, and you're like, should I eat this pastrami? This was here 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's probably fine. And maybe it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally like, it's endurance food, it's pioneer food. It's just like it's going to go the distance, and you don't have to worry because the food will still give. It'll be good.
So where does cooking like fit in or not fit into your life at this moment?
Currently not. I am not a cook at all. Like I'm pretty. I don't think I feel like I don't give myself enough chances to do it, but I just have very low self-esteem when it comes to cooking, and I just don't try. But my boyfriend is an artist, but he used to be a chef, and he's really good at cooking. And so there was a few periods during the pandemic and the lockdown when he was like cooking a lot, and I was helping him. So that's the kind of the extent, as I'm a helper in the kitchen.
Is there like
I
a
facilitate.
formatively negative experience that you had? Like, do you go back to a place in your head when you think about trying it that you're just like, I can't do that because?
Yeah, I think I had home ec class in middle school, and I think we like had to cook something once, and I it was just very frustrating and kind of traumatic for me. And it was some kind of like chicken dish, and I can't believe we have home ec class, which is like crazy. Um, but it kind of, I think it was something in that moment, and I remember the smell felt. I have like a distinct memory of the smell of the home ec room, where it was like sort of rubbery burning, um, and I don't know. I think I have a block from it, so it just kind of
it,
stayed with me. Like I
did you feel
messed up
like
my order. I messed up the dish, and it just was not. I just kind of stayed with me.
did you feel like the room smelled like that specifically because of your dish?
Maybe I have this weird. In my middle school, the home ec room was near the science rooms, and like the chemistry. There was a chemistry lab right next to the home ec room, and I think there was a mix of like chicken smell and rubber chemistry burning smell. Like,
Sure.
so I think it just had this like I can't even articulate it, but I can feel it right now, and it's like so one of those smells that just gets burrows into your brain. And I think they just both left kind of this like trauma smell in my psyche, and I still, yeah, it like carried with me. I carried it
It's
with
funny that
me.
it's funny that you mentioned the chemist it being near the chemistry room because it feels like they were like, well, that's where we're only running the gas line to like one place in this building, so
Yeah,
it's going to be where we need to have the like ovens and also the like Bunsen burners or whatever.
yes,
But also as soon as you said like a rubbery burning smell, for whatever reason, it did make me think of like having to do like dissections and stuff in science
yeah,
class and like the weird sort of like when they would like get out those trays that had the weird like wax or like rubber in
oh
the bottom that you would like pin stuff to.
yeah,
Oh, the pits.
yeah.
It's just
It's
exactly what you don't want to associate with like food of any kind.
yeah. I think you're right about the guy. I think they were just like, let's just throw them all together, but it just made for a very weird like vibe. Like I wonder if it was probably not healthy for all of us to be inhaling fumes like that, but it was the 2000s.
I'm realizing that we also had home ec, except it had been sort of, I mean, very limply rebranded as family and consumer science.
Oh wow. That's
But
that's
it was the
very like
same.
mod. That's because
Yeah,
my
I think so.
we we were it was just straight home ec. It was like no buts about it.
Yeah, they both sound like where I want to be like, what was this class originally called? Because both home economics and family and consumer science both sound like very defensive, sort of like them trying to justify to some like educational, like pencil necked bureaucrat, like why we should have this like class where they're just like, look, we just want the kids to bake cookies. Okay.
Yeah,
Whatever we have to call it, let's call it that.
so clinic family science. Like what?
Yeah, when you just say family science, it makes it sound like this is just condom class. This is a class about this is
Yeah.
like it sounds like family planning.
Or it just feels like some weird like dystopian society, like family, like this is a course you take at your assigned pod school or something.
This is a course that takes place in the world of the book The Giver.
Yeah, it's very Giver. My home ec teacher was this woman who my mom was friends with, and she was like a little older, but she was very glamorous, and she always wore like wedge heels, and she was very like just very chic. She kind of had like a Jane Fonda vibe to her, and she kind of just ended up doing everything for everyone, like especially like the kids who were more challenged with that, like I was. Like we'd have to build teddy bears and use the sewing machines, and my teddy bear was like an abomination. It was like we will not speak of this. But she had to come in and help me. But she was the best part of that class because she was really funny, and I just got a kick out of her. But it was not fun for me, that class.
So this woman was friends with your mom as well?
Yeah, she was. My town was super small, but she was like my mom taught at the preschool, and I think she had a grandkid there, or that she always picked up, and my mom got to know her. But she was like a very like just like a known family in town. But she was great. She was so funny. I think I don't think she's teaching anymore, but that was the best part. But yeah, cooking was never my thing, and and I think living in New York made it less of a thing too, because I just never my kitchens were always so small, and there was always food to get at like a bodega. I always was eating food from bodegas, or you know what I mean, or like the organic natural store by the subway in Bushwick. So I never made food for myself.
For a second, it sounded like I was like, this person didn't live in New York. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
you're just like, or the organic store,
Or the organic.
by the
No, I lived in
subway.
there was a place called Hannah Natural off the Jefferson stop in Bushwick that was like this uber expensive supermarket, but I always would like spend money I didn't have on like a disgusting chicken sandwich. Like they would do like build your own chicken sandwiches, um, or like a build your own sub or something. But that was yeah. I always was eating
Where
from
you somehow it's like you're doing okay, and then for some reason you add like Sprouts, and suddenly it's $22.
yeah. It would always be like $30 the whole like plus like a Perrier or something or San Pellegrino.
Where you're just like, this is a treat, and then for some reason it tips over into this place where you're like, it is good, but now I can't enjoy it because I know how
Yeah,
much it
now I
costs.
can't pay my rent. But yeah, it was food for me is I was also a swimmer, so I think like food I never like and I still to this day like I eat really fast. I feel like I don't enjoy food. I'm always just like I must consume. And I think food for me a lot is just like utility. Like I'll just grab like a Starbucks thing or so I'm not like that thoughtful about foods a lot.
How did that inform, like, was there a lot of like swimming in high school? Was there a lot of sort of like, this is how much you have to weigh, or this is how much you have to eat by this time, or this is what you should be eating?
Yeah.
Because I never got that because I was not athletic at all. And I'm weirdly sort of like jealous of it. Like I just don't have that relationship to it. This idea that it's just sort of like, here's how much you should be eating to perform in this way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, a lot of it was when you're like in intense training. I think the main food is just like you eat just as many calories as you can get because you're just going to burn it all. So it's more just like eat everything you can. But I kind of I feel like I continued that when I stopped swimming in college, like where I'm like I must keep eating, and it's like now I can't because I'm not swimming 10,000 yards a day. So I'm still I think sometimes I still eat like I'm a swimmer and I'm not. But I'm like, no, it's okay. I can just burn it. But now I'm 31 years old and like my gravity is really catching up to me. So I think I eat very quickly and but I have the times I have cooked this year, the food has tasted better and like I felt like pride in it if I helped make something. So I think that is something I should tap into more.
That's it's cool that that your boyfriend who you like used to be a chef is like like that you guys are doing it like collaboratively. I feel like that's something that I struggle with sometimes if I'm like, because I do enjoy cooking, and then inevitably when somebody is like, you're around somebody and you're cooking and they're like, hey, can I help, it activates a weird part of me that I'm oftentimes it'll be like, oh, maybe they said that because I'm very visibly like struggling, or I like have
Yeah.
too much to do or something, and we're eating in 8 minutes. But there's just some part of my personality that's like, just let me do it. I'll do it. I just got to do it right now.
Yeah.
Like that. It makes me feel weirdly defensive.
Yeah, I'm definitely a defensive cooker. I got a crock pot this year. My mom got me a crock pot. She sent one to me, and I there were one or two weeks where I was making crock pot food because we were doing a keto thing, so you could make like keto crock pot food, and that felt very satisfying to like, even though it's not really like you're doing that much work, you're just kind of throwing everything into it. It felt very satisfying for me to like know I was creating something and it was incubating, in the next room, and I was like very excited about it. It was like my cauldron.
What are I have a tough time. It's like keto is something that I'm like aware of, but I have a tough time almost like stereotyping it in my head as to like, you can eat this and can't eat that, because it's very like confusing to me. Was there a way that you were able to like boil it down for yourself in terms of like, these are the things that are no-goes, this is what I'm supposed to eat?
Yeah, I was kind of keto adjacent. My boyfriend, when he does it, is like extremely hardcore, where like he won't even eat gum because it
Oh,
has.
wow.
So he does it really well. But I'm kind of like, I'll just eat keto with him sometimes, but I'm still eating like my normal. But I there was one period where I did do it like, um I was pretty strict about it, but I don't think I did it right because I had some stomach problems. Because you have to be very diligent and make sure that you're doing it the right way, or your body's not going to take to it. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of chicken and cheese, and like there's some keto vegetables, but like you can't really have a lot of vegetables on it. So it's kind of it's a weird, but it works. I mean, you like go into your body goes into like survival mode, and it just starts burning everything. So
Does it feel weird? Like, do you feel when you're like, I'm in ketosis now? Are you like,
yeah, there's like a weird. I mean, the one time I really did it, there was like a weird three day period where you felt like you had a cold, kind of like you felt you were in sort of like this funk, and then you suddenly got crazy energy, and you were just like sleeping better, and you felt more awake, and you do feel very like skinny when you're on it. Like you feel very thin.
you're just your energy, your very existence is skinny?
Yeah, you have a very skinny, just a skinny aura. But then like one false move, one bad move can take you out of it. So it's very like there's a lot of urgency with it. It seems like. So I don't know if I have the discipline to do it consistently, but it does work.
It would seem like not the worst thing during like a quarantine period. It's just like, oh, it's something to focus on, and I have like spare attention that I would normally be like, if I was just like running around and doing a bunch of normal
Yeah.
stuff, maybe I wouldn't have the ability to like make sure that I don't eat gum.
Yeah, I think, I mean, LA is going into another lockdown starting Monday. But I think it's hard during the holidays to be disciplined. Especially because like I don't drink, and like it's like I have to give myself some holiday treat. Um, but I think you're right. I think it gives you routine too, which is really important during a quarantine. Or just like an isolated period where you just have something to like do every day, and you have something to focus on. I've been trying to give up candy because when I got sober, candy kind of replaced my addiction, and I got addicted to candy, like sour candy and like Mike and Ike's. So I've been trying to like not eat candy at night because that's usually my thing. Um, and I'm somewhat successful. Sometimes I'll relapse after like 6 days, but I know I can do it. It's just it's hard for me because you know, I gave up smoking too.
Oh wow, yeah. I was gonna say like friends of mine who are sober, I find it, I mean, admirable to begin with, but then additionally admirable when they'll go like, and then I feel a little bit inadequate when they'll be like, oh, and then I gave up smoking. Oh, and then I gave up caffeine. And then where I'm just like, Jesus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just, it's just very like impressive to me.
Yeah, no, I was a smoker um on and off since like high school, and it definitely helped me during it was such a crutch during this lockdown, but yeah, I quit like in the beginning of October.
Oh,
uh,
that's awesome.
but that has also been hard because it's like now I have like an extra thing I need to replace. So like candies, it's been hard. Candies,
Mike and Ike are getting hit. The pressure on them is even greater than it was
yeah,
before.
I think I'm probably the only person that buys Mike and Ike's. So, you know,
Especially in a non-movie theater context.
yeah, I think I'm trying to recreate the ArcLight candy thing.
Yeah, what? Because there's part of me that goes like, "Oh, now I want to talk to you all about candy," but then I'm like, "Well, if you're trying to give it up, I don't want to like."
Oh, you can feel free. I had some last night, so
Okay, great.
I'm I'm not that good. So
Yeah, when you go and get Mike and Ike, I mean, is it just in like a movie theater style box? Is it a bag full of tiny boxes of Mike and Ike's? Do they sell you just a bag of loose Mike and Ike's?
oh no, they're like movie theater box kind. There's a sour kind that's really good. That I would like drive to a CVS in West Hollywood to get because there was the only ones I could find. Like I was like determined to find the sour ones, and those felt rare. But now they have. I go to CVS probably every day. I'm I think I'm addicted to going to CVS. I'm a
I mean, it
very
is weird when you go ahead. Sorry.
no, I am just like I'm a true blue addict, and I get addicted to lots of stuff like process routines, and CVS is one of my things.
Isn't routine great? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just love it. Like when I'm in a period of my life where I have just like a good any sort of routine. It could be again, it could be like a positive thing, like smoke, you know, like running. It could be a bad thing. Like it's just there is something that is so
like going to
great
CVS.
about it.
I don't think I would not say that's a good thing that I'm at CVS that much.
But I guess it could be worse. You know
It
what I
could be
mean?
worse.
Like
I could be going to like you know we work every day or like the Scientology center that's near me or you know what I mean. Uh, but yeah, I love the vibe at CVS on Hollywood Boulevard. Mary
wasn't it crazy when
Steenburgen's Hollywood
oh
Star.
sorry, you were saying?
Mary Steenburgen's Hollywood Star is right outside of CVS. You know,
Oh
it's
my gosh.
a powerful place for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to have those places like that where you can just go back, get centered, you
Mhm.
know, look at her Hollywood star, be like, you were the best of that genre of actress that was like Andy McDowell, Jean Triplehorn. Like you guys were holding down the 90s, but like
Yeah,
Mary Steenburgen was like always the Cadillac of those actors
yeah, and she
and
continues to
still
book.
is.
She continues.
Absolutely.
She books.
I love to like there is such a weird thing. I feel like I moved to LA right around the time when and I can't even I wish I could remember what it was called, but there were still a few, it wasn't Rexall, but there was like a couple of like old-fashioned drugstore like brands that were still in operation that have now all been it's all either Rite Aid or CVS or Walgreens. Like that's
Mhm.
it anymore. But there were still a few other ones that were just like out there still kicking. And I feel like the main remnant of it that you see is like sometimes you'll go into a Rite Aid in LA and there you'll be like, there's an ice cream counter in here.
Yeah, yeah, that is weird. It is. There was there was a CVS in New York on 8th and I think 14th, like in Chelsea Meatpacking crossover, and it was I think it used to be an old bank, and it looked like a bank, but it was a CVS, and it had like do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
know. Yes, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
That was like that felt like kind of a temple to me. Like
Yeah, where you're like, this could have very easily gone the way of like, this is like a big club or a restaurant that they shoot Real Housewives
yes.
reunions in.
Yeah, yeah. It felt like maybe it used to be some kind of like 80s club or something, but
But that's the scary thing about CVS is that anything can become a CVS.
it's true. It is true. And I will go in every form.
But sorry, you were saying about that one in particular.
No, just like you were saying about like it felt like there was like an ice cream counter or something, you know what I mean? But it just like these old looking buildings that become a CVS or like a drugstore is I just love.
Yeah, there was also a weird like point where they all leveled up, like all of the ones that it was after I'd moved out of New York, I feel like, but like going back to New York and you would sometimes go into a Duane Reade and you would be like, this does feel a little bit like there's like a clubby vibe here
Yeah.
a little bit. Like they got like better lighting somehow and like even
Yeah.
the lighting in the like soda case was like suddenly like this soda looks really good.
Yeah, New York feels like any place could become a club after a certain
At any time. And the Walgreens on, I feel like the main harbinger of that in LA was the Walgreens on across from the ArcLight.
Oh my God, yeah. That place is like I love that place. That I don't go there enough, but it feels big. It feels
I
like
got sushi there multiple times and it was good.
I had sushi there once too. I ate al fresco. They have like a little patio, I think, and I like ate outside at Wal. It's like I love it there. There's like, isn't there like, aren't there multiple levels?
I believe so. Yeah, I think there's an escalator. It's like what Barnes and Noble used to be.
Yeah,
In fact, I think because that used to be a Barnes and Noble or a Borders or something.
yeah. Walgreens sushi. I don't judge. I love it.
Um, yeah, it's weird too. I think when you think about it, like, I guess I'm not surprised that you're obsessed with candy and you end up going to CVS all the time because I think in the same way that like coffee shop and diner used to be interchangeable, I think candy store and drugstore used to be interchangeable. You know what I mean? Like they're not anymore, but they're still like the drugstore is still probably your best go-to place for candy outside of a like artisanal candy store.
Yeah, you can't, I'm just kind of, a part of me is forever trapped in suburban New Jersey. And you just can't take away like chains from me. Like I love a drugstore. And I think I'm just like forever, a part of me is just like stuck in that. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, there is something to like when one chain becomes another chain and you're like, I shouldn't feel an allegiance because these are these like giant multinational corporations that are probably owned by the same bank or whatever, but it does feel weirdly, you're like just the same way that I'm like and I could never really describe it to somebody that didn't have a vested interest in this, but the way that a Walmart feels so different than a Kmart feels so different than a Target, like they just,
we had this place. I don't know if it was called Caldor. Did you ever see that?
I don't think we had Caldor. What's Caldor?
It was like a Kmart, but it was great. It was right near this movie theater nearby. It was just like, I miss some of those old places.
Do you think was it there? Was that like a chain or was it like this place was like this old man Caldor started this in 1948?
It was like no, I think it was like maybe it was a regional, it was like a discount department store chain of department, like it was just like it was like a Kmart chain, but I think maybe it was only in the East Coast, but it was just like a kind of a staple of my childhood. But yeah, it doesn't have.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Target doesn't have like the same feeling as those older places.
No, yeah, I think Target is a little bit like almost. Target is, I think, has that thing where you're a little bit like if you stay in Target for too long, you're like, I think my life could be better if I just bought $200 worth of stuff right now.
Yeah, you're where you just go for something and then do not buy that and buy like the opposite of that plus like five other things that are all so different than what you came there for.
And then you get, or you used to be able to get an icy and like a popcorn, but I think they're phasing that out.
Yeah, I think their food used to be great. Their hot dogs and they had chili dogs, I think, which I think I had once and it made me sick, but the regular hot dogs were good. But yeah, I think now they just have Starbucks.
Which is like, I get it. Like that, I get that that's where Target wants to go. Target wants to leave behind their like popcorn and icy past, but I'm
Yeah,
like, I know you, Target. I remember you.
yeah, yeah. Don't try. Like we know, and you know, I, I buy clothes from Target. Target has some good clothes, but
Absolutely.
yeah, you can't erase your icy past with your
Were
like.
there like, I feel like the kids that worked at Target when I was in high school, there was a like, it was almost like that was like do you remember when there was like a hierarchy of like what chain store like summer job you would have?
I didn't work. The one chain place I worked at was uh, Coldstone, which was seems like it's like kind of a cool like upscale ice cream place to work at, but it was fucking hell.
my my girlfriend in high school worked at Coldstone.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, it was wasn't it born in Arizona?
I believe so. Yeah, I think it was like a local like success story.
Yeah,
And they had a very, I don't know what your experience was like. Maybe it sort of had gotten diffuse by the time it made it to Jersey, but I feel like there was a very sort of like codified like employee culture where you have to like greet everybody when they come in and you
it was
have to.
the same. It was like a total like you went to this thing called Coldstone University. And you online course you have to take. It was intense. And I worked there in college one summer, and my superior was like a teen. He was not good at first, and he was very judgmental and like made me feel inferior. And I was like, I think I was like one of the older people on the staff, and I was worse. And then I got actually was good at the end, but yeah, you had to sing, you had to greet everyone. It was very like insular. They all hung out with each other. I was not included. And it was I think it had vaguely Christian roots, the chain.
That I don't know that for sure, but that does not surprise me. It feels very like Coldstone to me feels very. This is going to be talk about super inside suburbia baseball in one specific part of the country, but it feels very Scottsdale to me, like
Yeah.
Scottsdale, Arizona, which is very like upscale, very sort of like ladies who lunch, very kind of like very kind of like mega churchy, you know what I mean? Like people like where it's like a very status symbol-y kind of churchiness is
Yeah.
what I think of. And that all feels of a piece to me.
Yeah, I think it had that element of like unity that we were sort of, part of a guild of Christ in at Coldstone, whether we wanted to be or not.
Well, remember when on the third day when Christ rolled aside the cold stone
Yeah.
from the cave and emerged.
Yeah, it was also the Coldstone felt like a weird. It was like the monolith in 2001 or something. It was very like it was revered.
Was there only one per store or there like multiple cold stones?
I think there were one or two, but the people like everyone wanted to watch you make it on this, and it was literally just a slab with like ice on it. It was not, but everyone used to be like, "Would you like to watch us make it on the stone?" And they'd be like, "Yes." And then it was very, the upkeep of the stone was intense. It was so weird.
Were people like jockeying for stone duty, like to like wax the stone at the end of
I
the night?
I was not, but I think people were. I mean, I became I was good at the end, like I said, but I was rough at first. Like I had a guy bring his milkshake back because I did such a bad job with it. I was not, but then you kind of just give in. I think I gave in to the stone.
I'm now wanting to see a sort of like kind of indie-ish, like coming of age movie about this summer in your life where you like win the approval of a kid you don't like at a job that you hate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you don't really learn anything. It's just sort of like, I unintentionally became good at this thing and now this kid likes me, but I don't care. I'm going back to school.
Yeah, I was going abroad, so my parents were like, you have to get a job to pay for yourself. And I at the end of the summer, I went down to the Jersey Shore for a few weeks, and I worked at the Coldstone in this like kind of upscale shore town near where my family had a house. And it was like, it was like probably like 40 minutes away, but there was this townie girl that I worked with who was a teen as well, and she was cool, but she had like a lip ring, and she was like kind of a goth. And I remember these girls it was I think it was Labor Day weekend. They came in, this group of middle school girls, and they were definitely from like Philadelphia and like were just there for the summer. And they were kind of giving this girl shit about how she looked. And I saw it happening, and I was like 21. And I like went right up and was like, is there a problem here? To these like girls who were like trolling this teen. And I was like, do not talk to, I was like very defensive of her. I still think about her.
Absolutely. That's a great moment.
Yeah, I was like, you little assholes.
That you also use the sort of like just inherent power that anyone slightly older than you has at that age, where you're just like, oh, it's a grown up. Cheese it. We got to get out of here.
Yeah, I had an apron, and I was not going to let anyone talk to my goth coworker like that.
And that's why you were at Coldstone all along. That's why Christ wanted you.
Yeah, I think a part of me is still there.
Where did you go abroad?
I went to London.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so jealous. I never studied abroad. That is a big regret that I have.
It was cool. I quit swimming my junior year, and so I wasn't able to go abroad before, but I had my senior fall, and I was like, I know it's my last, but like I don't care. And I wanted to just be in a city, and it was really, really cool.
Was it like the stereotype that I have of study abroad is that it's like they sell you on like, you're going to learn all this stuff, and then you get there and it's incredibly not academically rigorous because they're just like, we know everybody's just drinking. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was expecting that. My school was like kind of hard. Like it was like not like easy. And I mean, it was a really good school, but I was an English major, so I was kind of expecting to just coast, but it was not as easy as I thought it would be. But I still partied a lot, and but yeah, it was kind of a troll in that way, where I was just thought I would get like, I would have no work, but I did have a lot of work. It was annoying.
Were they like, you have to read a lot of like the great English writers? Or like
it was a lot of that. I took one course, I remember, and we had to read this one book that was like, the writer came in and talked to us, I remember, and she was like, there was a character in the book, this American character who was like this repulsive character, and she was like, it's kind of a metaphor for America, and like and she was like, some statistic about how no Americans have passports, and I think I was the only American in the class, and I was like, I'm American. And my teacher was like, well, Carey's the exception, but so it was a lot of, but it was.
She thought she was completely, I had initially imagined her as addressing a room full of study abroad kids, but she thought she was like in good company.
She was just talking to this writer was just talking to these Brits, and then my professor, I think, got nervous that I was going to be like, think I was being discriminated against, I was like, I have a passport, got really defensive.
And then, you know what? In her next book, there was a really cool American kid who was really worldly.
Inspired by me.
And he had his forearms were just ripped from ice cream.
It's true.
So, Carey, my final question to you is, if there was anything that you ever, it could be anything at all in the world, either something you ate all the time growing up that you were super fond of, or something that you maybe had in a restaurant once that you loved, like something that you could just snap your fingers. If you could just snap your fingers and know how to make it perfectly, what would it be?
Hmm. Probably my mom used to make these amazing barbecue chicken sandwiches on potato bread, and it was just the best. And I think the way she had this specific way of making them, and I don't really even know how she did it, but they were so good and like the perfect meal, just like to get eat something really quick and feel fully sated. I think those would be, if I could snap my fingers and do that, it would be that.
Is that something that you can find out still?
Yeah, I mean, I can. She's always trying to get me to cook, so I can ask her. But I am extremely lazy, and I speak of big game. But when it comes down to it, I probably would be hesitant to do it. But that's like my ideal food, probably.
It might be a really good food for you because I have been noticing that chicken seems to be a big through line.
It is. Any kind of just like base protein, I'm all about. So that feels very easy and accessible to me, and I'm all in for it.
I want this for you. And then I'm sure they have potato bread at CVS. So that's
Yeah, I can
another,
go there for pretty much anything.
this
So
will integrate all of these different parts of your life.
yeah, it is representative of all my like routine addictions. So I think that's it for me.
All right, that is it. That is all for this week's episode of Stay for Dinner. Thank you so much to Carey O'Donnell, my guest. Thank you to Jason Anderson for my intro music, July 4th, 2004. Thank you to Owen Ashworth, the amazing advance bass. Thank you to Sarah Beacon for doing my podcast art. And thank you to you. If you would please rate and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, it helps there be more shows. So please do that and follow Carey O'Donnell at eCarey, CareyO on Twitter. He is so funny on there. It's not always a great place, but he is a great person on that place. Buy my books, The Boy Who Couldn't Sleep and Never Had to, and Crap Kingdom, wherever you find books. Particularly support independent booksellers this holiday season. It's super important, and a lot of them ship nationwide. Please support them. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.